Good morning, good morning. Hello, hello, hello. All right. Excuse me. I didn't make my coffee hot enough. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you. Let's get those likes going. Give everybody a few minutes to get here. Oh, we started a few minutes early. Nice. Well, does anyone have any questions before we, does anyone have any tarot questions before we get started with the teaching? Let me know. Claudia, love you. Is there a card for patience? I like that. What do you mean, Jennifer? You have another question, but you don't know if it's the right time. Like the right time to ask, like me right now, or the right time for you? No, just a pen and paper, Claudia. We're gonna just kind of walk through some of the stuff that we did in the beginning classes. Yes, Emily, you can. Remember, Claudia, when we first started those cats, I just read the word cat. When we first started class back in the day, we started working on psychic ability. That's what we're going to go over. So it'll just be like a refresher for you. Hello, Lola. So, I mean, you could ask about your cat. I'm not sure what you mean totally. Yes. They're not in my happy little hands yet. The cover is going to be different, actually, and the back is also going to be different. And there is one card in here that will be different. It will be the Quanah Parker card. They should be in my hands by August 6th. All right, Emily has a question. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, Jennifer, no, yeah, that would be two. Okay, I got you. So, Claudia, you can just text me, and then I'll get you my Venmo, but it is in the TikTok shop, but you can just text me so I can give you a deal. As a previous student. I don't know how to do deals in the TikTok shop yet. All right, Emily, I'm done dating. So if you're done dating, how is this person going to come into your life? Real questions, right? All right, if you're new around here, we're going to get started with some psychic education here in a few minutes. I'm just kind of waiting until a little bit after 12. So let everybody kind of get their feet under them, get in here. Hello, 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 bad girl, Cindy. Sorry, my phone keeps, I don't know why my phone is so, kind of like, what's that called? Winky wonky? Well, I don't know. I guess it'll just move around a little bit. You guys will just get car sick. Yes, I'm going to put this on YouTube. I didn't put the first one on YouTube. I feel like it was a little haphazard, so I'm going to just redo it today. We're going to redo it. But Emily wants to know if she's going to find love again. She's not going to find it through dating, though, so it's going to have to be a UPS man that shows up on her doorstep and says, I'm here, I'm here. Exactly. Get that good-looking dancing UPS guy. You know, so I started watching that UPS guy one time, and he ended up getting stalked online, right? which I know a little bit about. And I just saw different sides of him, and I'm like, man, a hat and a pair of sunglasses and the ability to dance definitely made him look a lot better than he really does. All right, Emily. That's a yes. That is you're in your own way, and that is self-judgment. So I do get a yes. The strength card, I do think that you've had to be strong. I mean, I'm not sure that any of us haven't had to be strong in our lives, right? But you are exceptionally like independent, and you're exceptionally, you're maybe even a little bit too stubborn, right? And then it's followed by the Eight of Swords. You do tend to get, hey Lana, you do tend to get in your own way a little bit, and you do tend to kind of overthink things to the point that they become like recurring thoughts and rumination and that kind of a stuff. So it's kind of like a yes if you get out of your own way. And then you do get the Judgment card. So I don't know if that's you not liking to be judged by others or if you're a bit judgmental. Let me know how that resonates. You're just basically over the dishonesty of the whole scene also, because your shadow card was the Seven of Swords. Hello, 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 everybody. Well, AJ be telling me what his feelings. So we're going to get started here in a few minutes with some psychic education. We're just doing a couple of cards here, just kind of kill time until a few more people get in the house, so to speak. Sorry that my phone keeps moving around. You guys are on a TV tray, right? I'm an overthinker, but I've been burned and blown off by guys that say, yeah, 100%. So I'm kind of getting for you, Miss Lynn, I'm getting no's. It starts with the Pope, which normally we would think that that would be one who unites the lovers, but I think I really feel like this is commitment issue on his part, like legitimately commitment issues, right? And then followed by the Nine of Swords, which is self-deprecation. Oh, it's all my fault. You need to quit blaming yourself for other people's shitty behavior. So if this guy has commitment issues, it really has nothing to do with you. I'm not sure that you guys have been around together. You know what I mean? Oh my goodness, share. And then I got another no, Miss Lynn. I think that if you're willing to just let it be, as opposed to I need this, this, or this, if you just let it, like if you just let it ride for what it is. I don't know, this guy really seems really stubborn and commitment issue-ish. Oh, I get that, Emily, yeah. Not me, but I get the I get the vibes. UPS guy said I wasn't submissive enough. That is hilarious. All right, we'll give it about 5 more minutes, and then we're going to get started. It does make sense. All right, good. Yeah, sadly, right? Because his loss. All right. That's hilarious. Oh, all right, Jessica, let's go. I literally threw down the Lover's card for you, Jessica. So the very first one is the King of Swords. I think he tends to be a grump, very critical, overly interested in work and how he looks to the outside world. He's kind of up in his head. I mean, this guy, this is inspired by a real guy that was accomplished. So I'm not saying that your guy might not be accomplished, but he's definitely a swords kind of a vibe. Legitimately followed by the dysfunctional Lover's card. So will you be in a romantic relationship? I think you could be. I think it would be good. As far, maybe good isn't the right word, maybe exciting. And then you get the Five of Swords, which is the card of dishonesty and more swords. So as you can tell, it goes swords, dysfunctional relationship, swords. So I think a better question is, do you want to be in a relationship with this guy? Romantic or otherwise. All right. He's a Cancer. I'm a Cancer. I don't know about that Cancer man. That's hilarious. All right, you guys. So we're going to get started. So today we're actually going to be doing psychic education, basically. And your questions, just put your questions in when you think of them. and we're going to get started. So last week, anybody here from last week? A few people here from last week, I think. And then we'll talk about tarot a little bit and how it marries into psychic ability, right? So also, if you are religious, this is a passage quoted by Peter in Acts 2:17 through 18, where Peter explicitly says this prophecy is being fulfilled. I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy, your old men will dream dreams, your young men will see visions. Even on my servants, both men and women, I will pour out my spirit in those days. So to me, this is just inherent to being human. This is legitimately being psychic, being able to do mediumship, being able to communicate with animals, telepathy. All of this is just inherent to being human. There is nothing necessarily special about me other than I become like overly obsessed with things and I like go in head first, knees first, all the way, right? I go in all the way. I'm kind of an overdoer, if you will. All right. So you caught the end of last week. Why do all my symbols come in like puns? Because you're creative and funny. Interesting. I love that, Rachel. Also, you may enjoy trying to figure things out. So if you are a puzzle doer, if you are a true crimer, if you enjoy trying to figure things out, then why wouldn't spirit speak to you with creativity? Why wouldn't spirit speak to you with fun, right? We're all gifted, Linnea. We are all gifted. So let's see. Am I good at it? Absolutely. But you know why I'm good at it? Because for almost 10 years, I did something every single day. Every single day. I was either reading a book about it, I was playing with my tarot cards, I was on a forum, I was taking a class, I was interacting with other people who were learning it. Long before I got to TikTok. I'm really glad I didn't learn on TikTok, to be quite honest. Because there's so much bullshit on TikTok. For example, not being psychic before you go into mediumship. And or not knowing the difference. So Linnea, what you're gifted at might be different. So you might be more gifted at talking to animals. You might be more gifted at telepathy. You might be more gifted at remote viewing. There are different aspects within it, but you're gifted just because you're human, okay? And so these people that act like they're special, they act like God personally touched them on the head and said, you get to do this, is just a lot of drama. It's a lot of Hollywood. We are all gifted with something. We can all do this to a certain extent. What we're really good at remains to be seen. I've been so drawn to tarot, getting them today, and I also feel others' emotions. What is that gift? So it is clair feeling, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. All right, so let's get into this. So that's going to be clairsentience, is I feel. That's going to be the emotions and the physical senses of someone else's energy. That's going to be knowing that someone is upset. That's going to be physical sensations. That's going to be walking into a room and feeling, oh, that person's upset. Oh, I just caught that glance. That person's sleeping with the bartender. That person is cross-dressing under their clothes. I don't know. You know what I'm saying. Yes, absolutely, Claudia. I will get this one on YouTube for sure. Yes, yes, yes. All right. Absolutely. So when you walk into a room and you feel overstimulated, you also have to get your own energy under control. So when we are turned on all the time, it is not good for us to be turned on all the time, right? We need to be able to have energy maintenance, if you will. What did I used to call that? Oh, I can't think of it. If anyone in the class is taking or if anyone in the room is taking a class, what did I used to call it? I think I just called it energy maintenance, but it's basically making sure that before you walk into this room, you know either you want to be overstimulated and you want to feel everything, or you don't want to be overstimulated and you don't want to feel everything. So we'll go over a little bit of what we talked about last week. We talked about the Marilyn Monroe effect. We talked about how you can make yourself bigger and you can draw in all four corners of the room or subway or whatever you happen to be in the car. Oh, that's right, Jennifer. Thank you. We talked about how you can be, bigger. You can put on the Marilyn Monroe effect, and we talked about how you can be smaller and you can shrink down your energy and you can bring your energy in, and it's almost like a cloak of invisibility. Also, any woman that's over the age of 40 or 50 definitely knows what it feels like to have a cloak of invisibility, because somehow suddenly you just legitimately, people don't see you. But what Jennifer is talking about is that when you walk into a room, you want to know if you're open or if you're closed, and you're in charge of that. I have a dog hair in my mouth, of course. Yeah, well, stick around, Linnea. That's what I'm going to talk about. So, for example, if you're going to a psychic fair and you're going to work a psychic fair, obviously you're on. Your sign is open, right? If you're going to walk into a grocery store and you're just there for groceries, you're going to turn your sign to closed. So in your mind, you're going to start visualizing an open sign and a closed sign. Just, like a grocery store, or like one of those signs on just a business store. You can't be turned on all the time, and you need to be able to say, I'm not available right now to spirit, because you need downtime, you need your own brain time, you need your own time in which you think and you feel. And so this is also called sitting in the power, right? It's also called meditation. It's also called chilling out. If you go hang out in a hammock outside, that's also sitting in the power. The only difference is you just need to go with some intention, right? So my intention is I'm going to sit in this hammock and I'm going to chill out with spirit for half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour. A lot of people will put something over their eyes so that it's nice and dark when they do it. Some people legitimately go sit in a closet. It was a big joke because I took one of I took several of his courses, but I took one of his courses, and he is a gay man, for anyone that doesn't know. And he said I would legitimately sit in the closet. And of course, ha 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 ha. So you got back in the closet on purpose? Ha ha ha, right? But it is a sensory deprivation. So if you're in a hammock, maybe you close the hammock. Maybe you put something over your eyes. It's the sensory deprivation that you're going for, because your intention is to sit there and chill out with spirit and get information from spirit, whether they're just having a conversation with you, whether you're trying to work on, like Linnea says, she says, I want to be able to control it. So then when you sit in the power, your intention is, I want to be able to control this. I want to know who my spirit team is. I want this. I want that. I would like to have, right? Because we never go to the spirit world demanding anything. We go to the spirit world and we have conversations. It's a cooperative thing. We don't control them for sure, and they damn sure don't control us, right? There is no control happening. This is all cooperation. This is all a relationship. Yes, very much. If you're constantly on all the time, you're constantly overthinking everything. Absolutely. All right, so let's keep going. So people talk about prophecy and dreams and visions, and then they will argue about religion, and they will argue about this being somehow demonic. This is so far from demonic that once you learn it and know it and understand it, it becomes comical to listen to other people call it demonic. You are legitimately just communicating with energy, whether that's your energy, whether that's someone from the other side, whether that's an animal's energy, whether you talk to trees. You are just interacting with energy, and everything has an energetic signature. Everything has a frequency. Everything has, I'm not huge on the term vibration because I think people misuse it a lot, but everything has a vibration, a frequency, energy, right? So our energetic signature is around our body, just like horses have a certain level of energetic signature. I think I watched a TikTok one day and they were like, did you know? And it was some scientific thing that horses like exude their aura, more or less, their energy shield, like 6 feet, 5 or 6 feet. We have that as well. Everything does. Literally everything. Like, you're not going to have a deep philosophical conversation with the couch, right? But everything has. It is. Yeah, Maton was just saying vibration is like a pissing match term, right? Do you want to come up and help me out, Maton? Or are you busy? It's up to you. It's very much ego. A lot of people get into their ego in this area. A lot of people get into their feelers about, I'm better than you at this, and I'm better at you than this, and well, I have ethics, and I do this. And it just gets into this constant struggle. And one of the things that most people are doing when they get into this area is they want the opposite of struggle, right? They legitimately, oh, hold on. There we go. They legitimately want the opposite of struggle. So Maton, we're just doing the intro psychic education that I'll put up on YouTube after this. So if you want to pipe up or whatever, just feel free. So a lot of people use, instead of saying psychic, because psychic is so looked down upon for various reasons, but mostly because there's so many friggin' con artists, they use intuition. They use the term discernment. They use the term spiritual gifts, like has already been used here. Some people even go so far as to call them prophetic impressions. Whatever you call it, the intention is for you to understand the life that's going on around you, that it's not a competition. So you're not in competition. I'm not in competitions with Maton's energy. I'm not in competition with a tree. I'm not in competition with, I shouldn't be in competition with anything. I should be trying to live amongst the other energies around me. Does that make sense? And then Linnea says, yeah, there's a lot of people on this app that ego is so high. So Maton and I met, hey, Michelle. Aw. So Maton and I met, god dang, do I want to say 6? How long ago?
We're on 7 years.
Are we really?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. But within that time, TikTok has even changed. I mean, when we talk about egos on this app, and when we talk about people just shitting on you, people dragging you, and then if you have a response, then they drag you again because you dared to respond. Hey, Michelle, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, so we're just doing a little psychic class today. And so try not to get into that. I've definitely fallen for it more than a few times, as Maton can tell you, because I like to argue. But really, it's about you finding out how it's going to work for you. So whatever exactly works for Maton isn't exactly going to work for me. And whatever exactly works for me won't exactly work for Michelle. You know what I mean? Linnea said, I asked a question on someone's live and I asked her to use tarot as well, and she got mad at me. So there's so many people on TikTok that are absolutely clueless as to what they're doing. And I ran across a gal the other day with like a pendulum, and she was just shitty to the people on her wall. And I was like, well, why are you live? Like, what is happening right now? And then she was like, yeah, I've seen a lot of readers that are incredibly shitty to the people in their comment section, and it makes zero sense. All right. So one of the things we also talked about last week is that the word psychic is actually a Greek word relating to the soul or the mind. And so it didn't start as the negative term that we talk about it now. Like, people talk about being psychic now as if everyone is a con artist, and that isn't true. They talk about it as if it isn't true at all. Like, being psychic is some kind of magic. It's legitimately just feeling the energy of other people. It's energy reading. Not today, Care Bear. We're doing a class on psychic stuff. Yeah, for sure you are better on this app watching people for a while and getting to know them, but also tap into their energy. If they're on, like for example, you guys are tapping into my energy right now, even though you may not realize it. Okay. So I'm purposely not tapping into yours just because I'm trying to focus on what I'm saying and I don't want to get distracted by somebody's energy. But you guys are basically all tapping into mine literally right now. So sit with that for just a minute. sit with the fact that you are able to legitimately just feel my energy and feel something about me, and you can get personality traits that way. You can get my emotion that way. You could get maybe a fear of mine that way, maybe something that I still want to do, right? So you will get information about me simply with me being on here interacting with you. Like I could say that I could stop it, but I can't stop it all the way. These people that are like, oh, you can protect yourself 100%. I don't think that's, what do you think, Maton?
I agree. I don't think you can protect yourself 100%. I think that to protect yourself 100% goes back into what you're talking about, this ego, because you as a humanistic person, if you're saying you're 100% protected, then you're trying to, in my head, connect yourself and alienate yourself from the human experience, because then you're saying I'm godlike, therefore I cannot be touched, right?
Oh,
Which
I love
just
having these
like
conversations with you.
just like how
Absolutely.
you say, like, just how I agree with you that your intuition can be wrong, right? There's a level of that has to keep you, whether it's by, faith versus whatever humbleness that we as humans have to adhere to, that we're not above a certain standard. But I think it's even deeper, that it goes into our own internal intellectualism. In order to have intellectual change and intellectual spiritual reflection, you cannot be at this fully protected level that you are here. And I'm doing hand differentials for the people who can't see my face because I'm putting on a shirt. You cannot have a differential of I am here and you are here without allowing those humanistic characteristics to be there. Now, whether you want to accept that those are there and that's their part of their journey on understanding denial versus reality and acceptance, that's another conversation, but it has to be there.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And as we were talking about ego, there's also a lot of people that will tell you that you either have to stop medication, you have to exercise 7 times a day, you can't eat meat. There's a lot of people that put a lot of bullshit rules around what we do, because that also puts them on a soapbox, right? I don't do this, therefore you shouldn't do this. Or back when I was first getting started, there were people that legitimately came out and they were like, oh, you can't do this. And if you believe politically this way, you're not really spiritual. And like just so many judgments on top of judgments on top of judgments. Listen, I've seen people who are too skinny doing this. I've seen people who are too fat doing this. I've seen people who get wake and bake every single day doing this. I've seen people who don't take anything at all. It really is about the work that you're willing to put into it. It's really about the, I guess, the energy that you're willing to accept as well as put out, if that makes sense. A couple of things that we talked about last week was being psychic in and how it overlaps with just our daily life, right? So, for example, we have something that's called ecological intelligence. Ecological, the world around us. How do you say it?
I think it's ecological.
Yeah, okay. Pattern recognition, intuition, and nonverbal perception. When we talk, hey everybody, we're just doing a little bit of a class on psychic ability, energy reading. Hang out if you like. This will also be on YouTube. Link is in my bio. I will get this uploaded later today. Nonverbal perception, especially, everybody may have heard of the podcast, the Telepathy tapes. There is nothing new in the Telepathy tapes. And I think it's amazing that it was so popular when it was. I think it was amazing, the information that they put forward. I really enjoyed a lot of it. But I get frustrated when people act like it's this new, surprising information. Does that make sense? Because there's really nothing new about it. People have been doing this literally. If you think about the danger signals that we used to have to do as people, whether that was because of weather, whether that was because of someone, maybe Maton is dangerous to me. Guess how I'm going to feel that? Through his energy. Maybe I'm dangerous to Maton. He's going to feel that through my energy. Have you ever walked up to someone or been close to someone and felt creeped out? That's telepathy. Everybody makes this big deal about like, oh, this is this and this is this. It's really so much more simple than we make it. It's so much more simple than we make it. And one of the things that when you get very good at this, nonverbal communication with autistic people has been going on for decades now, with really good psychics who realize that if I can talk to dead people and if I can talk to animals, I can talk to alive people, right? That's where energy reading comes in. Energy reading is energy reading. That's also why sometimes my students and myself, we have to ask somebody, like, are they still alive or are they dead? Because they feel the same. You know what I mean? What do you think?
I mean, I agree with you on everything you said. I don't know if it's my own self ego or my whatever, but I feel like I feel the difference.
You may. Yeah, you may. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Right.
Um,
The other thing you said that I think is really important to note, and this is kind of my own internal dialogue that I think about, is I don't think humans have really, quote, changed or done new things. I think that they have taken similar grounding points and re-recycled them. And the only thing that has changed is that the law that governs our societal expectations have become different. Not the actual idea, like people creating patents for things. Well, we can all brush our teeth the same way, right? The idea of brushing our teeth hasn't changed. It's just we all have different toothbrush companies that make basically the same thing with little, their own, fluff to it. But so the idea of brushing your teeth hasn't stayed the same. It's the way we legally control the way it's manufactured, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So, and like, I'm kind of, as you're talking about that, to me, it takes me back to the shamans, right? So when we first became humans, it takes me back to the people that used the oracles and the Delphis that used to tell the kings, should I go to war? Should I not go to war? We've been doing this. Like you said, the toothbrush changes. The act of brushing your teeth doesn't change, right? So we've been doing this, and whether you wrap it up in the marketing of the 1800s, and whether you wrap it up in the marketing of the 1980s, where it turned into new age overnight, right? Whether it depends on the marketing, but it's still the same basic energy exchange. So let's talk.
Like a bar of soap is a bar of soap. But you decided to put your bar of soap in a pink package, and I decided to put mine in a brown package. It's still going to clean you. It's just that the way you go about delivering it is different. We're all psychic. We all can read into each other's energy. It's your perception of how you're doing it that you understand within your own context and atmosphere that changes the way you speak to it. For example, you and I can both psychically read the same person, but the imprints that register in my book is going to look a little different than yours. But that doesn't mean we're not doing the same process.
Absolutely. Lana said, don't you think the upswing of communication, that old information travels faster and farther? Yes. Yeah. I think that we also underestimate the past. I think that for some reason, we tend to think, and humans just do this in general, everybody tends to think, okay, I'm alive right now, therefore this is the smartest era in history, when realistically that's not always true. We tend to think of the past as somehow different from us when it really wasn't. People still fell in love, they still needed shelter, they still needed food, they still wanted sex. Nothing changes in the human condition. It's just the package, kind of like you were just talking about, right, Maton? And we tend to think like, okay, like the telepathy tapes. Oh, this has never happened before. This is earth-shattering. This is earth-breaking. No, it's been going on for a long time. Telepathy was talked about in the 1800s. Telepathy was talked about in the 1700s. They just talked about it in different words. So let's keep going. All right, so what we call psychic today literally overlaps with what we used to do. So for example, reading the weather. People who worked on farms, people who worked with animals, people, ship captains, anything having to do with the weather, they would learn to read the weather, right? People could smell rain. A lot of people still can. They notice the changes in humidity. They watch the cloud formations, pattern recognition. They observe the insects and where they're flying, what they sound like, what the noise, the migration patterns of animals, pressure changes in their joints, atmospheric pressure changes. People in Kansas, if they're paying attention, they know a tornadic storm from just, we're going to get pounded with rain, right? A lot of them. Not me, but I grew up in California, so it was always a surprise to me. So somebody might say, oh, I had a feeling it was going to storm. It's basically, I had a feeling someone was going to call. People don't like to call that knowledge psychic, but that's exactly what it is. You are feeling the energy of the world around you. You are taking notice of the pattern recognition. You're paying attention. Honestly, sometimes it's that simple. And I know people like to make it really super complicated, and it's just not. Knowing when someone's approaching. I just talked to a second ago about if I was standing next to Maton and I felt like his energy was dangerous, that's an energetic feeling, right? You recognize, so if someone's approaching, you recognize someone's footsteps, you recognize strangers that are dangerous. A lot of times you can recognize strangers that aren't dangerous. Now, obviously, that's where I say our intuition isn't always right. Because if our intuition was always right, Ted Bundy wouldn't have had any victims, right? Hunter, let's say you sense a horse coming before you hear it because the birds, sound of the clip-clops. Hunters and soldiers survived because they noticed tiny environmental changes long before there was obvious evidence. Sensing illness. So this is something that people who call themselves medical mediums, or people who call themselves, there's another term for that. Can you think of that, Maton?
The only one I know, medical medium, is the only term I've ever used. Yeah.
There was another one. And anyway, I'll think of it. So humans can subconsciously, and animals also do this very well. They've literally trained dogs to sense cancer in people now. But humans can subconsciously detect changes in their own body odor, the odor of other people's skin color, posture, facial expression, behaviors. Modern research suggests people can sometimes recognize illness before they consciously know why, and ancient healers relied heavily on these observations. And again, pattern recognition, right? Which is why a ton of neurodivergent people are in this niche, is because they live and die by pattern recognition. Indigenous people, the trackers, they weren't just using magic, right? They're looking for signs. That's what we're doing energetically. When we go to remote view something, we're looking for signs that we would recognize. We're looking for shapes that we can describe. We're looking for past experiences that might tell us where we're headed or what something looks like. If you've never been in a adobe hut, it would be very difficult for you to say, well, I'm in an adobe hut, right? So that's why you are using your own impressions, your own memories, your own visuals, your own dictionary symbols, that sort of thing. So, like, for example, indigenous trackers, they notice broken grass, bent branches, fresh poop, wind direction, soil moisture, all of these things that, like I could not go out and track something. So it's a skill, right? I couldn't just send Maton out and say, go find me, the guy that walked by my house 3 days ago. But that's literally what trackers used to do. They used to track people that they didn't see and that they just knew had either traveled that way or they needed to find them, blah, 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 blah. That was a skill that they learned to do. Knowing when danger is nearby. This is something that humans used to be very good at, and I feel like this is definitely one that we've lost. Unless you live in the city and unless you're a little bit hyper vigilant, or maybe even if you had a really dysfunctional or chaotic childhood, you may be on a little bit of a different level with sensing danger. Do you know what I mean? Someone who lives in the city is going to know where not to walk. They're going to be like, ooh, it's a little dark over there. Someone could be hiding behind that trash can. or they're going to have different levels of awareness than I'm going to have. If I'm outside and it's dark, I want a flashlight so I don't step on a snake. You know what I mean? There are different levels of awareness depending on where you live, how you grew up, your obviously life experiences, right? But those are still going to be, for example, if I'm outside in the mountains and I'm camping and I just suddenly stop, it's worth listening to, right? Is it a bear? What did I just hear? What did I cognitively just hear that probably went to my reptilian brain that made me stop? Was it spirit? Was it intuition? Was it a sound? Was it a safety mechanism within my human body? And does it matter? You stop, you listen, you learn. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, what you're kind of talking about is like the psychosocial environmental change and development of someone. For example, you talked about someone with trauma or a very chaotic childhood or whatever versus someone not, right? You're really going back to the part of the brain, which is the amygdala, which is the alarm system. And there's lots of discussion, comparison on, brain monitoring things, MRIs about people who have trauma could have a much more stronger or heightened or bigger amygdala, meaning that their senses in a psychodevelopmental way has more neuroplasticity, so the ability to make those inner brain neurons zap faster versus someone who hasn't had the trauma because their amygdala is at a different rate or is firing at a different rate. And how the amygdala, of course, is then connected to your prefrontal cortex, which is your ability to make the decision. So if you have an alarm rate that's going off at a high, maybe quote, higher frequency or a higher connective rate, and you're dropped into a city, you might be able to adapt a little bit better to a city like, Chicago or New York versus someone who has a lower amygdala level of the neuroplasticity firing for being dropped in the middle of, Kansas.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the atmosphere of what you walk into, it's like walking into, walking into a laser tag game. Some people have more predispositioned skill set that makes them, walk in easier rather than maybe me who, is like, that's part of that too. So yeah, it plays into what you're talking about, how your intuition connects to the way your body reacts.
I love that. And Hanny Divine Light brought up a really good point. Like knowing the difference between the nervous system reaction, which is kind of be what you just said, the emotional reaction, which is going to be like learning the news of someone that maybe passed away, versus inner guidance. So knowing the difference between the three of those things and more, there's more than just that, but knowing the difference and being able to pick apart those differences is legitimately what makes a good intuitive, right? Because you get sorry guys, I got something in my eye, probably another dog hair. But knowing the difference between those things is legitimately what you do when you learn this stuff. So when you get into energy reading, when you get into psychic ability, when you grow and then you go into mediumship or animal communication, you're legitimately picking apart all three of those things. Is this animal telling me that they are nervous? Are they having a nervous system reaction? Or is this animal telling me that his emotion, his, hers, whatever, that their emotions are being affected right now? Or are they literally trying to give me some inner guidance? Now, inner guidance in the way Hanny said it, I think she means our inner guidance. But once you start talking to other energies, whether that's an animal or a dead person or a human, they're going to try and give you some guidance also. I don't know that I've ever talked to anyone or anything that didn't try to give the person a message. Have you, Maton?
I haven't either.
They're always wanting to help. They're always either wanting to help, or I just want you to know this, or tell my human I love them, or the human is like, tell my animal I love them. Like, the message is the point. So whether the message is coming to you or coming from you, The messages are the point. The communication and the relationship is literally the point. So we'll go through a couple more of these real fast. So last week we talked about word association, and I gave you guys a word, and I said, start your symbol dictionary, start thinking about word association. What does it mean to you? We talked about the senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, knowing, temperatures, the whole 9 yards. And so this is like how you're using those senses within your daily life. So we talked about if you were a hunter, indigenous, the trackers, sensing illness, knowing when someone's approaching, reading the weather, knowing when danger is nearby. Mothers incredibly intuitive once they have a child, especially. Well, obviously that's what makes them mothers. They know often before a baby wakes up and cries that the baby's going to wake up and cry. They know very often twins have the same kind of interaction. They did a study on twins, and they would do something to one twin, and the other twin, maybe one's in California, one's in New York, and the other twin knew it. So the level of interaction between all of us. They did some studies too. You'll probably know more about this, Maton, but they took cells or something and they poked it in like California and it had a reaction in like New York. I can't remember what that study was. I'll have to look that up for next time. Yeah, the twin interaction things are so interesting. So interesting.
If you go on TikTok and you search in twin tests, there are videos of people like in their everyday life where they put their twins between a door and the mom is like filming them or the parent is filming them, and they say, raise your right hand, and they can't see each other and they both raise their right, or no, sorry, not raise your right hand. She'll say like, raise an arm, and they'll both raise their right arm without them seeing each other. And they'll say, jump up and or spin around, and they both spin in the same direction. I mean, that's exactly what that thing is you're talking about. Is this telepathy or this interconnective energy. So absolutely, for sure. I mean, I think if you also look at like a lot of the studies about the way the womb is developed and the way the babies develop as twins in the womb, the way they share, blood, from the placenta. I mean, they are so interconnected that in my head, there's no doubt in my mind that there is something there because they are so ingrained at every stage of development.
Absolutely. So then we have navigating without maps, finding minerals or water, and reading people. And so the humans that are constantly interpreting micro expressions, tone of voice, posture, pupil dilation, breathing, and countless other signals, sometimes you just know when someone is lying, even though you can't explain why. Now, the difference between this is that a lot of skeptical people will say that all we're doing, though, is reading those thousands of micro expressions, tone of voice, posture, pupil dilation. They say that's all we're doing is cold reading. So what you have to do as you learn more, you have to allow yourself to understand that, for example, if I was giving Maton a reading right now, I can't see his face. Maybe he doesn't even have a picture up. So that takes away the aspect that I'm cold reading, right? So a lot of people that get on this app, they thought, well, how on earth do you read through the comments? And it's because of intention and being specific. It's your intention, and you're specifically going to one person's energy. You're not going to every energy in the room. You're going to one person's energy. But one of the things that people will argue with you about is that we're just cold reading someone. We're just paying attention to pattern recognition or how someone responds, which is why when you talk to a medium, they should not be asking you questions. They should be providing you with information. If you are interested in being a medium, there is definitely watch us. I mean, Maton and I both do mediumship readings on here, but there's another practitioner on here named Sylvester. And I don't know that I have ever seen him ask somebody a question. I'm prepared to be wrong on that, but he provides information. He's a very good one to watch. I don't recommend people watch very many mediums, but he is a very good one to watch because he provides information. He does not sit there and ask questions. So when you see these psychics and or psychic is very co-creative. So psychic is not meant to be like a mystery, right? I would be like, Maton, are you married or single? I'm not trying to guess everything, you know what I mean? But in a mediumship reading, because we're trying to prove that we exist beyond death, we need to be providing information to the sitter versus soliciting information from the sitter. Does that make sense to everybody? So there is a difference. So when you see these people that are like, what does 23 mean to you? It could be a month. It could be a time. It could be a number of fingers. It could be last week. It could be next week. It could be tomorrow. Maybe it was yesterday. Those are fishing questions. Those are ways of cold reading. So when people sit there and they say, what is, I don't know, I'm seeing the letter 2, you know, or the number 2, excuse me. It could be February. It could be Tuesday. It could be this. It could be that. They're giving you too many choices and it turns into a multiple choice reading instead of an actual, I am providing you with information that you're validating. So there's a difference between evidential mediumship and someone fishing so that they can give you a cold reading or hot. Well, no, hot reading is when you know. Yeah.
Another one that I see that's kind of coming along with this new age spiritualism thing is when people will be like, I keep seeing, you know, let's say, let me figure out. I keep seeing a yellow duck. Would that make sense? Well, yeah, obviously. At some point, you've probably seen a duck, whether it's a play duck, a squeaky duck, a duck in the wild, a duck that I unalived with my car last month. Of course, like, versus being like, you know, I keep seeing a yellow duck that is in regards to a childhood. That is evidential. You're giving the full experience. You're not just saying, hey, here's a dangling carrot, you know, let me swing on it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's that's going to be the difference again between someone who is developed and someone who maybe isn't developed, or between someone who's a con artist and someone who isn't a con artist. There's this one gal on here that I've watched for years and I had to block her so many different times. I don't know how she keeps getting unblocked, frankly. But she always sees a military member. In almost every single mediumship reading, I see someone in the military. And there was this one time, this person was like, I don't have anyone in the military. She's like, well, I see someone. They kept going back and forth. And the medium, and I use the term loosely, says everyone at some point or another has had someone in the military. And I was like, well, then you just like gave up your whole thought process behind the fact that you're forcing this military member on this reader. And it isn't true, actually. There's a lot of people out there
none of my grandparents served. I mean, they've served and helped adjacently through science, but they were never in the like, I'm not a military family.
There you go. There you go. It was what was her name? She wore those big fucking stupid
glasses. Stupid, yeah.
Anyway, when you see stuff like that, just get out of the room. Unless you're observing them to know what not to do, just get out of the room because you're supporting their bullshit, right? There's a one gal who charged like $85 for a 5-minute reading. In my opinion, an $85 for a 5-minute reading is just a highway robbery. Like, just get out of the room. That's my opinion, of course.
I agree. I don't disagree.
So we can talk some more about everyday psychic experiences. And the reason that I'm giving so much information is because you need to think about this every day. If you want to do this, if you want to move into mediumship, if you want to move into animal communication, or even if you just want to be a good tarot reader, you should be thinking literally every day about how your day is interacting psychically with yourself and with others. Does that make sense?
Correct. And I think this is where the movies have Hollyerized, which is not a real word, but just go with me here, people. They have dramatized the idea of psychism, tarot reading, you know, because it really is that simple. It is a simple way of how you walk and react through life. but they have created it to make it this kind of like fear mongering. Like if this is happening to you, if you get a, if you suddenly get an itch on your neck, the devil is going to come out and spite you. Like that's not. It's really not like that. And I think that holistic development and this new age thing, which has taken this and has ran with it in a new concerning way, where it's hypervigilance. It really isn't like that. It's like you're saying. It's really as simple as I had a weird feeling today. I decided to take the freeway instead of my normal route. Oh, there was a crash that could have happened to me. It's that simple.
Yeah, and that wasn't a demon talking to you. That was your own spirit guides, intuition, feeling, whatever. A fucking breeze in the wind. You know what I mean? And these people that are like, everything is demonic, they just drive me insane. And there is no new age, right? That is a marketing term. That is a section in a bookstore. There is no religion called New Age. There is no personality identity called New Age. It is a section in a bookstore that is a big umbrella for all this shit that people put under the umbrella, right?
I was always told that New Age was an initial coined term to distinguish between like the 20th and 21st century. That's what I was first told it was, which I also don't think is very accurate, and that's another conversation. But that's where I was first introduced to the idea of like, okay, the 1900s, like the Fox sisters, that was one century of it. Then we went into the 20th century. Now we're going into the New Age. 21st century. You know what I'm saying? It's a way to like categorize it, which I like how you say it's like a bookstore section. That's the only way I would ever consider opening to that term, but I still think it does more damage than good, and it's not really important to it.
I think it does more damage than good too, because it implies that it's new. And it isn't. Like, we've all been doing this the entire existence of humans. We have all been so before I forget, I just want to say really fast, the Fox sisters were completely debunked in the 1800s by themselves, or the early 1900s. They literally debunked themselves. There was so much bullshit going on in the 1800s that people still believe in today, like ectoplasm. Total bullshit, folks. Spirit photography. Now, see, and this is what happens. There's a little bit of truth and then a bunch of bullshit, okay? Can you have spirit turn up in a photo? Absolutely. Absolutely. I had a Polaroid after my mother died. I went and bought a Polaroid camera because I didn't have a camera. And I took pictures of my mother's grave, and I saw yellow, huge, it legitimately was like this yellow rose bush that like grew. I had bought her a little.
Oh, I've seen it because I brought it through on a reading.
That's right.
And I was like, and you're like, you're not going to believe this. And I was like, what are you talking about? And you're like, I have a photo for you. It was when we were in class, when we did the group activity.
Yeah. And I wish I could find that photo again. I should have framed it a long time ago. But all that to say that I had bought my mom a small red rose bush for her gravesite. And when I took a Polaroid, it looked like a huge yellow rose, but like huge, right? And I was talking to my aunt one time, and I was like, she goes, well, Mariana, yellow roses were her favorite. And I was like, well, how the fuck would I know that? Like, I don't know this shit. So I returned the camera, because when I took a picture of my daughter and my cousin's daughter, or my sister's daughter, two little kids, this big yellow thing came across it. And I just assumed that the Polaroid was fucked up, because this was a long time ago. I had no idea that spirit could actually turn up on photos. Now, compare that to the spirit photography of the late 1800s, where they had your literal loved one in a silhouette behind you. Bullshit. You know what I mean? Spirit showing up on photos, yes, it happens. A silhouette of Abraham Lincoln behind his wife doesn't happen. Okay? So that's the difference. So it was the new age of Aquarius. It was enlightened. It was spiritual enlightenment. And we were supposed to be moving into this new spiritual enlightenment. So kind of what you said, but kind of also not. So they called it the new age of Aquarius. It was very hippie-ish. And then it moved into the 1980s, where they turned it into a marketing slogan.
Correct. Everything is turned into a slogan, or it has been turned into a fear-mongering tactic.
Yeah, there doesn't seem to be a lot of in between, does there?
No, and I really wonder if that's just like, again, like the idea of like we as humans like have to have one or the other. We have a hard time in the gray. I don't know. That's a whole other thing about philosophy we can get into one day. But I've
Yeah.
noticed this thing. It's like it is a weaponized way for people to feed their egos, and to my opinion, people who are not as talented as other people, because they, in my opinion, I haven't seen the work being done. But it's this, again, this you are here, I am there. I am this person because I'm in the new age, enlightened, whatever, versus you who are, it's again this idea of questioning, this idea of that if you question me, you are unenlightened because I'm in the new age and you are lower in, what was the word, vibration or whatever that I brought up
It's
earlier.
the
That
constant competition. And
correct.
we really shouldn't be compete like maybe I'm better at animal communication than you are, but you're better at remote viewing than I am.
Oh,
I
we
should
know
just
you're better than I am. I've said that. I have no ego in this game. I know you know that, but I'm saying, I'm telling you,
no,
you should be at, people
I
should
didn't mean
be at
that.
that level. No, I know. I'm just saying, like, I think people need to be at that level where I can be like, if someone comes to me for an animal reading, for animal communication, I go, I am not the one for you. I can do, I'll tell people, hey, I'm good. I can do it. But like,
Yeah.
if you want to have a life changing experience, this is where I'm going to send you. Go here.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But that's because your identity is not tied up in this niche. And I wonder if it's because you also have a whole other job. I mean, you're in mental health, you have a graduate education. So I wonder sometimes the people that get so wrapped up in this niche, if they don't necessarily have something to balance it with, you
They
know?
don't. You're
You
absolutely
know?
correct. There's an idea that, like, it's same with our partners and the people in our lives. You have to have your own identity developed outside of the community. No, I'm saying you shouldn't have a community in place, but like at the end of the day, I'm Maton. I am not Maton, the psychic medium. That's why I will never say I'm psychic medium, da 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 da.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
identify myself on that trope. Just like I say, like for example, me and my partner, I have my own likes, hobbies, things that trigger me, whatever, outside of my partner. And he has his own friends. I have my own friends. You have to have your core establishment in yourself. And I'm not saying that that doesn't develop and change over time. Who you
Yeah.
are at 30 is not the same as who you are at 70, but there are core attributes and thought processes that have to be there, that you don't need to identify yourself from an external experience like being a medium, being a psychic. It's, I can do psychic and mediumship. I'm not a psychic medium. And I think a lot of people come into this niche because it is the first thing that they can identify with, or conceptualize in a different way
Well,
that they can't conceptualize other parts to it.
let's also be realistic. There is no barrier to entry into this. There is
Correct.
nothing stopping anyone from saying that they're a psychic medium. There is no license.
Correct.
There is no graduate school diploma. Anyone can come on here and be full of shit, and anyone can come on here and be very good. And it's that
Right.
discernment between the two that really, for example, I remember when I first got on here, I said, this isn't actually my end goal. My end goal is not to be a medium. My end goal, hey, hey, Moon Mystic, my end goal is actually to write books. And it always
Correct.
has been since I was like 5, and that's what I want to do. And that's what I want to move into. So I think between having an actual career and being a medium and wanting to be an author and still having dreams, right? That balances everything out. And I used to say this in interviews, actually, I haven't said this in a while. I have low ego emissions. And I know there's going to be people out there that think I'm egotistical. I think they just don't understand my personality. I actually don't care if someone's better than me. I think it's amazing when someone's better than me. Like, I'll watch Sylvester and fangirl a little bit because he's doing it the right way, and it's so impressive and it's so cool because you're like, God damn it, that's it. That's it. That's how you should be doing it. And so I never sit there and set myself up against other mediums because I'm good at some of it, they're good at some of it. It's not supposed to be a fucking competition. You're supposed to do it your way. I'm supposed to do it my way. You know?
Oh, I completely agree with you. I think that's again that's part of this like you are here, I am there. It's this idea of like, well, we any less knowledgeable or understanding of stuff because you and I don't do this full time.
Oh, that's a whole nut. Well, before we get into that one, let's keep going. So let's talk about everyday psychic experiences, and these are the things you should be putting down in your journal. So number one, we talked about being big, Marilyn Monroe. We talked about being small, invisible, cloak of invisibility. We talked about reaching out energetically to animals. Say you're on a park bench in a park, and you're reaching out energetically to get that animal to look at you, respond to you, come over to you, depending on whose animal it is, obviously. Don't. You're tapping in a little bit energetically to the people that you work around. And so you're trying to get those hits, right? You're trying to say, oh, I thought so and so was sad today. I thought Sally Jane was sad today. And I asked her at lunchtime and she was. Hit. Okay. These are the little things that you're now paying attention to about your daily day, your literal daily day. I was right about the weather. I was right that so and so was going to call. I was right that Sally Jane was sad. You need to start paying attention, legitimately picking apart your day and congratulating yourselves for your little tiny wins, because that's how they get to be bigger wins. That's how you get to start telling the difference between emotions, reactions, fear, happiness, sadness, depression. Is it depression or is it autism burnout? Right? These are different things. There's a lot of people that misunderstand their own inner self as depressed when maybe they're really just sad, or maybe they're nostalgic, or maybe they're melancholy, or maybe they're autistic and they're fucking burned out and tired. Maybe they're just exhausted, right? I love that. Moon Mystic. Mystic Moon was also a student. Thank you, thank you. She said your classes really help me to read others better, and it helps me at work a lot. I love that, because this isn't just for becoming a medium or just for becoming psychic. This is legitimately about reading people at work, responding to people at work, which frankly sometimes I'm not very good at. I think that that's one of my shortcomings, is because I talk in such a way that it's very difficult for me to change the way I approach people. And because I'm so blunt, some people need you to fucking beat around the bush for 7 days before you fucking say something. And I'm like, you know what? That doesn't work.
Correct. Also, the development of your psyche and your reactatory intuition, that's not really the term, but just whatever it is, what it is right now, through being able to practice like what you talked about like understanding your energy when you reach out to a bird or react to a whatever, it helped doing those activities strengthen that, but it also strengthened through that. It made me better at reading myself.
Yes.
Because the way I'm able to understand how that works helps me have a second moment of hesitation before I react.
Mm-hmm.
Am I having a reaction because I'm triggered? Am I having a reaction because I want to say something a certain way? Or am I really meant to have this reaction because this is coming off as a warning? And when we talk about the everyday experience of that development, it is so slight to the point that sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. You're just doing it.
I will say this over and over and over and over, and literally, if you hear nothing else, all mediumship, psychic, animal communication, energy reading, all of this is nothing more than you trusting yourself. It's nothing more than you getting to know yourself and trusting yourself. If you can trust invisible information that you don't know where it's coming from, and know it's not demons before anyone goes there, but if you try, because you set your intentions before you ever get the info, okay? We're always setting our intentions. You'll see these people that are like, we only want the highest and the best and the good, and they do this like every fucking time. Well, of course we only want the highest. That's just your intention, period. No one ever sits there and goes, I'm going to read for Maton. Please send me all this shit from the bottom of the barrel. I want to really give him some really crap info. Nobody, that's never going to be anyone's intention. So you set your intention. That means you don't have to sit there and repeat yourself every fucking, like when you get baptized, you get baptized. You don't have to get baptized every morning to be baptized. So let's jump into everyday psychic experiences. Thinking about someone before they call, knowing who they are before they call, waking up seconds before the alarm, walking into a room and knowing which people are arguing and which people aren't. A lot of times, and I've known this since I was a kid, and it's the weirdest information. I know who's sleeping together. I know who's cheating on who and who's sleeping with who. And I always had, and I used to tell my mom, I used to say things out loud and I would get shut down very fucking quickly. Feeling watched. You know when you're feeling watched. If you're walking along, a lot of times, and this this goes back to listening to yourself, right? If you're in the city, it's going to feel different. There's so many people around. Then if you're in a very small town, you're going to know, oh, all right, so-and-so over there in the store is peeking through the window at me, right? Oh my gosh, Mystic, isn't that the weirdest information to get from the universe? She said I could tell who's sleeping together too. I just think that's the weirdest info to get. So feeling watched, knowing a child is sick before they say anything, or maybe before they even realize it. Having a dream that later resembles something that happened. Those are prophetic, right? Suddenly changing routes, like Maton talked about earlier, and later discovering that there was an accident on the way to work. This is part of your intuition. It's part of your psychic ability. It's part of being human. It's part of listening to yourself. It's part of accepting information that the universe is trying to give you. I used to be a freelance writer, and I would send out these query letters to magazines, and they would, sometimes they would respond and they say, oh, we already have that article in the works. Now, back before I realized that information is available to all of us, I used to be like, you motherfuckers stole that idea, and I'd get pissed off and I'd react and I'd be ugly and blah, blah, blah. And then now sometimes they really did steal ideas, because when you send something and they do it word for fucking word, but sometimes it really is that the universe says, ooh, let's throw this idea out there, and whoever picks it up first is the one that gets to do it, right? That's when I started later. I started realizing that information is available to all of us. Nothing is really new under the sun, kind of like the telepathy tapes. I love that they did it, but none of that was new. None of that was new. Now you presented it in a different manner. They did great marketing. They did really good podcasts. The information still wasn't new. And so some of us that knows it wasn't new, it was hard for us to listen to it. And it was hard for us to like take it in. And I would be sitting there going, oh, that's not new. And then knowing someone is lying to you before you know why they're lying to you. So intuition is information though. And this is where I talk about the due diligence. And this is where I talk about the fact that we can be wrong, regardless of how long you've been doing this, regardless of how many times you have been right in the past, regardless of how sure you are, you can be wrong. What was I thinking about that was a good example of this? Do you have a good example of this, Maton?
I mean, I have so many good examples.
I know. I'm trying to capture one. It's like a bunch of info right now in my face, like this.
I mean, the amount of times people have asked me, like, am I going to get this position in a job? And I say yes, but I was wrong. Yep. Telling people, I've told someone, I call it kind of foot and mouth sometimes, telling someone that their husband is cheating. They're not cheating. I was wrong. That's where you have, again, your ego and your internal biases are really need to be checked when you're doing some of this stuff, because, or like saying, oh, I think this child is going to be, on the spectrum. They weren't. They were just reactatory. You can be wrong. Anything with human interaction has at least 2% ability to be wrong. Whether you're doing a psychic reading, whether you as a clinician are doing, therapy with a client, I can be wrong about my assessment of this client's diagnosis, or I can be wrong about this and this and this and this. It's the same as like a doctor, a lawyer. Well, I was wrong about my decision to actually give this person parole when I should have just put them all the way into the clink. Everything as a human existence has an innate ability to be wrong, because it's in that inability of where you're so humanistic, you can learn from it.
I love that. So Lana, who is also a student, says, knowing when someone is lying to you is a great tool. And it is, and this goes back to my due diligence though, because I've been lied to for so many years by a specific, ex-spouse. Is it my trauma? Is it my fear? Or is someone really lying to me? And that's where the due diligence comes in. Is this person actually lying to me? And like Maton said, and I love that Mystic Moon brought this up, she said maybe the husband was thinking about cheating. And that's exactly what can happen, is that we pick up either the energy of the past, maybe it did happen in the past, but it's not happening this minute, or maybe the energy is that he's thinking about it so much that it is coming through as an actual action. Does that make sense? So that's where I tell everyone, you have to do your own due diligence. This is how it feels, but that doesn't mean it's 100% true. So I had asked Maton and Tara, frankly, and Reese, the job in California that I was fucking sure was mine. I mean, I was so sure. Reese said yes, Maton said yes, Tara said yes. I don't have that job. And that job has been filled. So we were all wrong. All four of us. And we're talking about some pretty high level intuitive motherfuckers. So you can be wrong. And that's what everybody has to keep in mind. So these people that get on here and they're like, I'm never wrong. It'll come to you. I'm never wrong. Don't go to those people. Don't listen to them. Don't go to them. Definitely don't learn from them. They're all in their ego. Anyone can be wrong at some point in their life. Again, our intuition, our information is being filtered through our trauma, our biases. That's why I do like cards. You'll see a lot of people that'll say, well, you don't need cards to be psychic. Well, no shit. But when you throw the cards down, sometimes those cards are able to go around your fears and your biases and your trauma. Like you've seen me do it before, Maton, where I will, I'll say, well, if you're asking me, I say you get rid of that motherfucker. But let's ask the cards. And then the cards will kind of slap me upside the head and be completely different than what I would say as a person. Does that make sense?
Totally. When people have asked me when we've done readings together where they're like, am I being, cheated on? And I say yes. And you pulled the cards and they said no. And they were and it wasn't just like you pulled one or two cards and you got like a no. It was like the whole spread was a no. Yeah. So it's like, and I remember that person came back and was like, yeah, he wasn't cheating. I was just paranoid that he was. I remember this. And you were like, you see? And I remember that was very early on, right after classes when I started reading just cards.
But, the thought process there is kind of like Mystic said. Were you reading her fear or were you reading the actual situation? Right? And sometimes the energy of fear can be so overpowering.
Correct.
That we're reading the sitter's fear, not the actual situation. And it doesn't always happen like that, or we'd never be right. But sometimes that fear from the sitter can be so overpowering because of their trauma and their energy and their lack of due diligence, or maybe they've gone overboard and everything is a sign. Oh my God, that's a sign. Oh my God, that's a sign. Oh, the moon came up. It's a sign. So we can be overboard, right? We can be too much into some of this shit.
I think people sometimes want you to play into the confirmation bias of it.
Oh, absolutely.
Like if I'm pulling cards for you or psychically reading, whatever, part of me, again, that's part of the ego the due diligence of being like, hold on here. Part of me has had moments where I'm like, yeah, I am right. They are cheating on you, like I want to have the aha moment and confirm that like, yep. And my energy sometimes gets intertwined with it to where it's like, oh, I want to confirm what they're thinking because I want them to feel confident in their decision.
So that is a really super good point.
You have to fight against that as the reader.
That's a really super good point, and that's another reason that I like this, because these are just cards. These are just pieces of paper. But what happens is that the universe will kind of work around, like he said, confirmation bias and validation. Now, I do think that most people go to psychics to validate what they already feel because they don't trust themselves. 100%. And
Yep.
that's why I say I start every class with, you will leave here trusting yourself if nothing else, right?
Yep.
But when you throw down, so, okay, so for example, I did dysfunctional lovers because sometimes the lovers card doesn't tell you exactly what you need to know. So I put 3 lovers cards within here. I still remember it was Elena. I haven't seen her in a while, but Elena used to be on here, and I did a reading for her about her partner, whatever husband I think it was, and I read what he presents, not what he really was. So he
Right.
presents as this, this, and this. He was actually a narcissistic lying shitbag, but he presents as this, and this. So you can and you can be wrong. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
Yep. Absolutely.
All right. So then, what was I going here? And then we'll shut it down for questions. I must have gotten my notes mixed up with my podcast
Fabulous.
because this is talking about somebody being held responsible for encouraging another's big S because of cyberbullying. Oh, okay. That was not meant for this. Okay. I got my notes mixed up. So I think we'll open it up for questions. We've been on here for an hour and 13 minutes. I'll do this about 4 or 5 more Saturdays. I'll put these on YouTube after we're done. The link is in the bio to my YouTube. I do need to update my links. I apologize for that. I'm not open for readings right now. I'm on a hiatus. And I'll be honest, I wonder if this chapter is starting to close because when I miss reading, I get on here and read, but I don't necessarily miss. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think we all go through chapters and blah, 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 blah. I love teaching it. I love talking about it. I think I'm going to get rid of the Say It to My Face podcast and move it into the Police Don't Like Mediums podcast. Because this turns me, lights my fire, whatever you want to say. And I really love the idea of that other podcast, but I love the idea of this more. And there's only so much time in the day, you know what I mean? And then teaching other people to do it honestly and responsibly and that sort of thing. One of the things, and you guys go ahead and ask me any questions. If you guys have any questions about being psychic or not being psychic or whatever, animal communication, mediumship. Yeah, Mystic Moon has a really good point. She says, I love doing readings, but my full-time job is so demanding. I think that is absolutely also very valid. So same, especially since I work at night. I feel very drained often during the day and just tired. So the podcasts are on this channel. It's called Mediumship and God. The other one, I think I'm going to let it die. There was 5 episodes. They were fun. They were good. They were listened to. But I don't think that's where my energy is right now. I think my energy is over here. And since I only have so much energy, I need to just focus and quit trying to do 7 million fucking different things because my brain is on fire. So on this
You
channel,
can thank your neurodivergency for that.
I'm exhausted, dude. Some days, and 0 medications have worked for me. 0 medications have worked for me, and I ended up going to my primary the other day, and she said something, and I just kind of, I don't know. It's a lot.
Absolutely. I just got off my ADHD meds that I was trying. I cycled through 4 different meds in the last 2 months. No, 2 months. No, 3 months. And I was just like, nothing is helping to the point where I can't just manage it on my own with what I was doing before. Because I have accepted that my brain just wants the endorphin rush of throwing 16 projects in a basket and seeing what happens.
It's fucking annoying. So she asked me because we talked about. I'm so tickled that I finally got the tarot cards finished, even though they're not.
I cannot wait for those.
Even though they're not here yet, August 6th for everybody. But she asked me what I had tried, and I don't know if it's my body chemistry. I don't know what it is, but Adderall didn't work. Ritalin didn't work. Zoloft didn't work. I mean, you name the medication, and I've at least given it 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And
Yep. Hmm.
so, anyway, no questions at all. No questions at all. All right. Oh, I was supposed to be on YouTube when I did this. So there you go. Can't remember shit. So when I will upload this to YouTube and people might watch it and be like, oh, well, there she is. So ADHD, autism, neurodivergence, very, very overwhelming in this niche. Very overwhelming in this niche. Very much.
Either we thrive in it or we crash. There's no unfortunate in between.
Literally. Mystic Moon, thanks for being here. I appreciate you. It's good to see you. I mean, I started yet another book, and this is the one. You know, it's like when you buy, it's like when you buy a fucking planner. Do you think I ever finished the romance that I sent to you, even though you said I would finish this?
Yeah.
Yeah, you were like, no, you said I would finish reading this, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish it. It's not finished. It's a struggle. It is a fucking struggle. Absolute fucking struggle. All right, you guys. I am going to. Is there anything else you can think of to add to this one, Maton?
I think you covered everything that I would think about.
So next week we're actually going to have you guys. What I would like for next week, unless somebody feels like doing it right this minute, if you have never ever read someone's energy, go ahead and tell me if you'd like to come up. If you've never ever sat in someone's energy, yes, it will be on YouTube. So yeah, you do need to know that. If you would like to come up and sit in my energy for just a moment, or sit in Maton's energy for just a moment and see if you can get some correct information, I encourage you to do that if somebody would like to do that. It's very scary. And it is. When I first started reading on YouTube, around TikTok, it was like, it was scary. It was absolutely scary. I totally understand, all right? Nobody's raising their hand. But next week, I'm going to want you guys to remember to practice the Marilyn Monroe. Be big, be small, be invisible. I want you to practice the energetically reaching out to animals. I want you to practice your spirit dictionary, your symbol dictionary for spirit. I want you to practice word association, even if you're just doing it with yourself. Look around the room, go Amazon box. Bam, what does that mean to me? What do I see it? Obviously I see it, it's on my table over there. But you know what I'm saying? Is that's something I would feel? That's something I would pick up? That's something that's useful? That's something that Spirit's going to be able to use my knowledge in order to use? You know, if they show me an Amazon box, maybe I say, would you understand that you're expecting a package? Yes. Okay. See where I'm going here? What else? We talked about the everyday things in everyday life. I didn't say that well. That are considered intuition, taking a different turn, looking at the weather, knowing someone's going to call, knowing the person in front of you is mad, angry, sad, knowing apparently Mystic Moon and I can tell who's sleeping together. What an odd thing to be able to do, right? So you're going to write those down as hits. You're going to journal, right? And then next week, I'm going to want someone to come up and actually interact, though. Hopefully, I know it's scary, but I'm going to want someone to come up and interact that hasn't done it before. Anything else, Maton, that you can think of?
I mean, you talked about going over senses. So another activity you could do is if you sit in a room that you feel comfortable in, like your bedroom or a living room, a room that you have always been in consistently, I would invite you to take a blindfold, whether it's a sleep mask, a towel tied around your eyes. I want you to sit there in that room and do that and see what you feel or what you hear, feel, whatever, write it down. Then I want you to take it off and put earbuds in your ears or something over your ears, like earmuffs, and do the same activity and see what you pick up that you may not normally pick up, because we get acclimated to our environment that we're comfortable in. So that forces you to allow yourself to feel these senses in a different way and just see what it's like.
And because you're doing this with intention, that's the perfect time to talk to spirit to give you information that you can also validate. So tell me something, spirit, that I can go validate. Whether that's, I don't know, a specific tree, whether that's, something is growing, whether that's I need oil in my Jeep. That's a big one for me. My Jeep screams at me. My Jeep and I are very communicative. Whether it's a horse or a dog or a cat, interact with things around you intentionally. It's all about your intentions. Turn on the open and close sign. I'm closed. Spirit, sorry, we're not interacting right now. I'm open. Give me information. Write it down. Your mom was accidentally fell out of a car when it went around a corner. Hey, Mom, do you remember this as a shared memory? If she says no, then maybe it didn't happen. Maybe she doesn't remember it. But then you put an X next to that info. And now you know what it feels like to get incorrect information. Okay? Because there's a difference between feeling correct information and incorrect information also. All right. Cool. Hey, Stacy. Haven't seen you in a long time. How are you? Girlfriend? All right. Well, you just caught us at the acid, 9.9. I love it when that happens. You just caught us at the end, but we'll be doing this Saturdays at noon Mountain Time for about an hour. We've been on for an hour and a half, so I'm sure we'll go over. Absolutely, Jennifer. It was good to see you. Stacy was a student. Jennifer was a student. Maton was a student. Lana was a student. Moon Mystic. I love it. Thank you, guys. That's really complimentary, actually, for people who have sat through my classes to listen to me brattle on again. Thank you, Steele. All right, you guys. Well, Maton, thank you for joining me.
See you next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.